It was only a book. That's the excuse I kept repeating to myself, the phrase I pressed against the inside of my skull when sleep refused to come. Just a book I forgot to bring back. Nothing more. But I knew better. That wasn't what had me staring at the ceiling night after night. On campus, I survived by staying unnoticed. Hood pulled low. Music filling my ears. Coffee clutched like a shield in both hands. The same scuffed leather satchel hanging from my shoulder, its strap cracked from years of use. I moved through limestone hallways and busy courtyards like background noise, present, but never registered. Third-year history student. Solid grades. No academic fireworks. Just enough to keep my scholarship intact. And that scholarship was the difference between staying enrolled and packing up my life. Money was always tight. Tuition, rent, textbooks, transit, everything balanced delicately on my ability not to make a single serious mistake. And then I did. Professor Henley's seminar on Cold War propaganda met twice a week in a narrow room that smelled faintly of chalk and old wood. One afternoon, he handed out a stack of reference texts, thick hard covers, heavy in the hand. Mine was red, worn smooth at the edges, with no barcode or checkout slip tucked inside. Special collections, he said, tapping the cover. No scans. No copies. Bring it back directly to the third-floor desk when you're finished. I nodded. I meant to. But deadlines stacked up. Finals blurred together. Winter break arrived. I moved apartments, picked up a part-time shelving job at the community archive, and somewhere between packing boxes and working late shifts, the red book slipped completely out of my mind. Until last Thursday. "Hey," Henley said, catching me as students filed out after class. "Library flagged that reference book is still checked out. You did return it, right?" My stomach dropped so suddenly it felt like missing a stair. Yeah, I said too quickly. "I'll double-check, but I'm pretty sure." He studied me for a second longer than necessary. Not angry. Just unconvinced. That night, my apartment turned into a disaster zone. I emptied drawers, flipped couch cushions, checked under the mattress. I tore through laundry bags, half-unpacked boxes, even the broken desk drawer I never used. Nothing. I told myself it had to be a clerical error. Libraries mislogged things all the time. I fired off a casual email, friendly, low stakes. "Hi, just checking in about a possible return discrepancy. I may have brought the book back but wanted to confirm it was scanned properly." I hit send and lay awake until nearly 3 in the morning, calculating how fast everything could fall apart if they decided not to believe me. Because it was never really about the book. It was about how quickly one administrative decision could undo everything I'd built. They didn't scold me. They didn't threaten. That was the unsettling part. The reply came the next day. "Please report to the Chief Librarian's office, room 312, at 10 a.m. sharp. Do not be late." I arrived early. The third floor was eerily quiet, no printers humming, no murmured conversations, no footsteps echoing between the stacks. Room 312 sat at the end of the hall. No windows. The door was heavy wood, the brass handle cool and slow turning beneath my palm. Inside, the air felt carefully controlled. Dim, still. The walls were lined with framed portraits, former librarians, decades old, all photographed head-on, all unsmiling. Filing cabinets stood flush against the wall, their drawers locked. Shelves held leather-bound ledgers stamped with faded gold lettering. Behind the desk sat the chief librarian. She didn't stand. Just inclined her head slightly toward the chair opposite her. I sat. She was precise in every way, hair pinned back, scarf tied neatly at the neck, hands folded as if they'd rehearsed the position. Her expression held no judgment. No warmth either. To her right sat another woman I didn't recognize. Early 30s, maybe. Softer features, gentler eyes, though her posture matched the room's discipline. A folder rested in her lap. She offered a small, neutral smile. I received your message, I said, my voice catching. About the book. The chief librarian opened a drawer and withdrew a thin file. You borrowed a volume from Special Collections on November 4th, she said evenly. It has not been returned. I thought maybe I had, I said. Or that it got mixed in the return bin. She slid a paper across the desk. A scanned checkout form. My signature unmistakable. This text, she continued, tapping the page once, was part of a limited private donation. There is no replacement copy. Rebinding and sourcing would cost approximately $1,300. The number rang in my ears. I don't have, I started. She raised a hand gently. We are aware. There was a pause. Deliberate. Heavy. That is why we are prepared to offer an alternative resolution. The assistant glanced at me, not sympathetic, exactly, but attentive. As if gauging something. The restricted archive is currently understaffed, the chief librarian said. We are offering you a temporary apprenticeship in lieu of financial restitution. My brain stalled. Apprenticeship? A structured placement, she clarified. Supervised work in collections preservation. You will be trained. There are protocols. Standards. The assistant opened her folder and withdrew a neatly formatted page. You'll be expected to comply with conduct and uniform guidelines while on duty, she said gently. We'll guide you through everything. Uniform. The word snagged. I don't really have a choice, do I? I asked quietly. You always have a choice, the chief librarian replied, unchanging. However, if you decline, the invoice will be forwarded to the bursar's office by Friday. Silence settled between us. Okay, I said. I'll do it. The assistant smiled again, just slightly. And for a moment, I thought I caught something behind it. Not amusement. Not pity. Expectation. They didn't rush the explanation. The chief librarian spoke about the archive the way someone might describe a living system, temperature controls, light sensitivity, handling rituals. Even sound mattered. Even how you moved. Preservation, she said, extends beyond materials. It includes continuity. Presentation standards established by the founding archivists remain in effect. I nodded, though my thoughts lagged behind her words. The assistant stood and crossed to one of the metal cabinets. The lock clicked loudly in the quiet room. She withdrew a folded bundle and placed it carefully on a side table. This is the uniform, she said. I looked. A structured blouse. A knee-length skirt. Neutral stockings folded with precision. Polished shoes aligned heel to toe. Conservative. Modest. Unmistakably not meant for me. Heat rushed to my face. I looked away too late, my pulse hammering in my ears. I had expected gloves. I had not expected this. And something in the room, something patient and certain, seemed to already know that this was only the beginning. My pulse spiked immediately. I don't think I can do that, I said, the sentence breaking loose before I had time to measure it. Where, that? No one rushed to contradict me. The assistant simply stayed where she was, hands folded, eyes steady. The chief librarian interlaced her fingers atop the desk, as though we were discussing filing procedures instead of my life unraveling in real time. As outlined, she said evenly, this attire is mandatory within restricted spaces. If compliance is an issue, the financial penalty remains yours. The quiet that followed felt engineered. I could hear the ventilation system cycling, the distant whisper of pages somewhere deep in the stacks. My breathing sounded intrusive, too human. Numbers began flashing behind my eyes. $1,300. Academic holds. Emails to financial aid. The scholarship committee's polite disappointment. My parents' silence on the phone when I told them I'd failed again. All right, I said finally, gaze fixed on the carpet. I'll follow the requirements. The assistant released a breath I hadn't realized she was holding. It's confined to the archive, she added gently. No public exposure. No images. No one outside our unit will interact with you in that capacity. I nodded, though my chest felt tight, like I'd agreed to something I didn't yet understand. A part of me clung to the idea that I'd laugh about this someday. File it away as an odd bureaucratic nightmare. Another part, quieter, unfamiliar, felt like something inside me had shifted, just slightly, as if a latch had been loosened. I didn't know what that meant yet. They didn't warn me how disorienting it would be to watch myself change by degrees. Not in a dramatic moment. In small, careful increments. Afterward, I wandered across campus without direction. Sunlight poured over the quad. Students lounged on the grass, earbuds in, mid-laughter, mid-life. It was an ordinary weekday for everyone else. For me, it felt like I was carrying a secret weight in my bag. I skipped my next lecture. I needed space. The guidelines were printed plainly. No threats. No emphasis. Just expectations. Hair removed where visible. Nails short and clean. Scent minimal. Fabric must sit correctly against the body. Archive conditions are sensory sensitive. I read the sheet over and over before setting it face down, as if that could neutralize it. That night, the bathroom lights felt too harsh. The mirror too honest. I stared at my reflection longer than necessary, cataloging details I usually ignored. The razor waited on the counter beside a bottle of unscented gel I'd bought with the excuse that it was for skin care. I considered skipping it. Pretending compliance. But I knew better. My hands hovered at my waistband. My stomach twisted. Then I exhaled and turned on the water. The first pass startled me, not because it hurt, but because it didn't. Hair vanished easily, revealing pale skin beneath. I paused often, rinsing the blade, steadying my grip. By the time I finished, my limbs felt oddly exposed, like the air touched me differently. I wrapped myself in a towel and stood there, dripping, refusing to look. When I finally did, I saw myself altered in a way I couldn't quite articulate. Still familiar. Still me. But softened somehow. Less armored. I slept poorly. Every time I drifted off, I pictured the folded uniform. The assistant's reassurance, "No one will see you," looped in my head. What unsettled me wasn't the fear of being seen. It was the flicker of wanting to be. The restricted archive had a separate entrance tucked behind the third-floor stairwell. No signage. Just a coded lock and a door that closed too quietly. Inside, sound behaved differently. It didn't echo, it absorbed. The building demanded restraint. The assistant met me near the changing room, a narrow space with a bench, hooks, and a full-length mirror that felt more observant than reflective. She carried the uniform folded with care. Shoes placed neatly by the bench. "We'll go step by step," she said. "Once you're comfortable, I'll give you privacy." My voice stayed absent. I nodded. The stockings came first, soft, cool, clinging immediately to freshly shaved skin. The sensation wasn't painful, just startling in its intimacy. The skirt followed. High-waisted, charcoal, structured. When I pulled it into place, my stance changed without instruction. The blouse was crisp, pale, fastened with small pearl-like buttons. She showed me how to smooth it, how to tuck without creasing, how to close the collar properly. I felt every seam. The shoes were low-heeled, sensible. Standing in them required adjustment. My balance wavered before settling. Last were the glasses, ornate, weighty. When she set them on my nose, the world sharpened and narrowed all at once. I barely recognized the person in the mirror. Not exaggerated. Not performative. Just contained. She corrected my posture with words alone. Shoulders relaxed. Chin level. Feet closer. Walk, she said. Heel first. The sound of the shoes against tile was soft but undeniable. Fabric shifted with each step. My awareness narrowed to movement, breath, balance. I didn't speak. I didn't know how. Embarrassment burned hot beneath my skin. But beneath that, unexpected clarity. Focus. Like static had dropped out of my thoughts. The chief librarian's presence announced itself without sound. I learned to sense her before seeing her. Corrections came calmly. Precisely. Never raised, never cruel. Wrists lower. Left hand first. Don't rush. At first, I bristled at every note. My face burned constantly. The shoes felt foreign. The posture unnatural. Then, without warning, something shifted. I began correcting myself before she spoke. Movements slowed. Footsteps softened. My body learned the space. The calm followed me home. One evening, I caught myself sitting upright on my couch, hands relaxed, breath steady. The realization startled me. This wasn't staying in the archive anymore. The assistant noticed before I did. Don't fight the motion, she said one afternoon when my walk stiffened. You're overthinking it. Let the structure help. I didn't understand until later, until I felt how the clothes guided movement, how they shaped stillness. We started talking more. Not deeply at first. Studies. Plans. My lack of certainty. She never rushed silence. Once, adjusting my blouse, she said casually, "Everyone struggles at first." Everyone? I asked. Her smile was small. You're not the first to arrive unsure of yourself. The words stayed with me. Weeks passed. I hummed while sorting catalog slips. I stopped second-guessing my hands. When she brushed a loose strand of hair from my shoulder, she said, "You look settled." It works on you. I wanted to deny it. But I didn't. The morning the door opened early, everything inside me froze. A man's voice echoed softly behind me. I hadn't prepared. I hadn't armored myself. The assistant intervened smoothly. Policy cited. Apology accepted. But the safety I'd built cracked. Later, when he said, "Something's different about you," the words followed me home. That night, in the staff restroom, I saw myself clearly for the first time. Not pretending. Not hiding. Just present. I didn't feel shame. I felt recognition. By the end of term, the fine was resolved. The work completed. The recommendation offered. You may continue, the chief librarian said simply. I already knew I would. When I left that night, uniform folded in my bag, I felt something unfamiliar but steady. Not fear. Possibility. And for the first time in a long while, hope didn't feel like a lie I was telling myself.